Hey, 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 hey. Okay, so apologies for the I'm always starting this with an apology. It's just because, well, it's real, it's not scripted, it's just just the truth. So apologies for kind of getting the kind of pre what we're going to talk about like really really late. I had loads of ideas in my head what we talk about, and then obviously we over the weekend and right now we've got Trump hopefully brokering a peace deal. So it kind of threw stuff it through it all a bit. I was kind of hoping, I was watching the broadcast just before posting the what we're going to talk about, and I was kind of hoping it was an actual, an update. Oh, this is the reality, but it's not. It's like it was a pre convo. So maybe. But so I kind of wanted to dive into some. This is all psyops today, to be fair. Some are old, that we'll kind of revisit based around the Trump Putin talk, perhaps. We've got a new one in the UK over the weekend, the whole called Flag Frenzy. So we will talk about that very quickly and briefly. We've got the ID consult, which finishes in 2 days, and how that leads into your kind of energetic fingerprint. And then we'll kind of talk quickly about hope and faith. So I know that we've had a couple of really long sessions, so I want to try and keep this one it's always me, I know. I want to keep this one a little bit shorter, and then maybe we will be able to finish with some good news with regards to no more people being genocided in Ukraine and Russians being murdered in Ukraine as well. Just to keep this money war machine going. So first off, potential peace in the Ukraine. We'll see what happens. I would suggest that the European arseholes are going to, Starmer included in that, are going to probably do whatever they can to ensure that it doesn't stop, right? Because at the moment, Trump has, what is he up to, 6 wars stopped now? And obviously, if there's no war, there's no money, there's no control by the cabal for the things that they want to do, right? So the endless wars is the big old money making machine. Like the amount of money that's spent on arms is just insane, and you need an outside threat in order to keep pushing control, right? So that's what it's all about. But when I found out Trump and Putin were meeting in Alaska, my brain kind of was like, Alaska, why Alaska? And I kind of was thinking about all the things that I've heard over the last 5 years. And the thing that really kind of stuck in my head was on the 4th of November, 5th, and I don't know, the 2020 election, whichever day in November that was, and the of day after the election, I was watching Tori's show, and one of the things she said repeatedly was, why is nobody going to Alaska? Why have they stopped counting in Alaska? Why is nobody going to get the computer? Like, why aren't they getting the hard drives? And all of this stuff. And I kind of like just brushed it aside. But obviously Putin and Trump are in Alaska today, and that kind of popped into my mind. I was like, oh, wasn't there a whole computer 2020 election thing? And then as I was kind of revisiting some older stuff, as I'm, you guys know I'm in the middle of kind of turning all of my therapy stuff into online accessible stuff for everybody to use. So I'm kind of revisiting many of the things that I've collected and information that I've amalgamated over the past, I don't know, when did I don't know, 20 years. It's a long time. And so I had Alaska in my head. And so I've been rereading the whole Fritz And actually, this is a book that I didn't. So I never read this one because I didn't know about this one. So it's the deeper insights into the Illuminati formula by Fritz Springmere and Cisco Wheeler. And I know that Fritz then ended up getting arrested and charged for armed robbery. Really fucking random. And then obviously when he came back out of prison, he was like singing the praises of Jacob Rothschild, something really weird. Cisco Wheeler, if you've never heard of her before, she is supposedly an ex-Illuminati programmer. But when I had my first kind of DID client, which was over 5 years ago, who was like bloodline, I did lots of digging into, that's when like my entire psychology, everything I'd learned world fell apart because I realized all the things that I held dear was just like being used to torture people, right? So I did loads of digging back then, and I came across all of this kind of stuff back then. And I've just been kind of revisiting it because I've been thinking about this a lot. So I've been very open with the fact that, part of my brain's not accessible. I think probably the best way to describe it. And, as a child targeted, rough kid, for teeny tiny bits. I mean, so just so you know, like I wasn't, MK Ultra'd, tortured, any of that, right? That I was blessed to not have that, but it doesn't mean that. I mean, drugged, operated on, that kind of like stuff. And they had legit reasons to kind of be messing in my body because of, like I mentioned last week, right? So I got um, structural complications. So I'm still trying to unpick stuff. So I started to kind of revisit, because I don't want to accidentally. My concern was to, if I start kind of digging, do I then run the risk of flooding? I mean, they don't. It's not all torture, right? So it's not all torture based programming. That is usually reserved for blood bloodline members, who they need to kind of continue on, and just be completely subservient nonstop. So it doesn't mean they don't use it on other people and they don't like traumatize people for shits and giggles. Like, I mean, they're sick fucks, right? But if you're useful or potentially useful, then they kind of like decide what kind of use you're going to have, and they will kind of do whatever they need to do. Anyway, so I've been kind of having I was having a read through, and it alludes to the beast computer, and I was like, wait a minute, I know about that. Like, where do I know that from? Right? And that's so he's talking about it being in Alaska and one of three. But so kind of like conspiracy lore is that there's nine sets of three, which is interesting when you understand 369, nine being triangles, nine's actually a diamond, to be actually when you look into symbolic kind of symbolism, but three lots of three triangles, three dimensional, like that. So there being three nines, even though it's kind of, I would say the people who are talking about the nine computers don't really understand potentially why there would be nine. So the beast computer is supposedly a computer system that kind of went online early 60s, late 60s, kind of around 60s and 70s. Potentially one in Alaska, one Area 51, one Pine Gap in Australia, one in Belgium, Menwith Hill, which is the UK, USA, NSA and GCHQ listening post up in Harrogate, where I was, my dad was stationed for a little bit, and we were up there for a little bit. So they kind of just basically, the point is they're just listening to and recording everything. And we know that the NSA does this because that's what Snowden was kind of talking about. So basically, everything everything everywhere is recorded, and then filtered down, and target words are kind of ciphered. But also, what we have up in Alaska is the HARP project, right? So HARP, and yes, HARP is quite often associated with weather modification, but it's also very frequently associated with mind control and, freak. And we know, so it drives me crackers when, I try and ask Grog, please amalgamate this information for me, because these are I've read this. I just need you to put it in some kind of point. Because, well, it's kind of based on conspiracy. And I was like, this is like D-class CIA documents I've just uploaded into you. So, with anyway, so the fact that he was in Alaska is interesting. So it was on a military base. We had last time, I don't know whether it was specifically the last time that Trump and Putin met, but the last kind of huge Trump-Putin meeting was with the whole football. Trump passed the football over to Putin. Putin passed the football to Trump, and there was that big song and dance. What we saw this time was Putin jumped in the limo with Trump, and I would hazard a huge guess that isn't just an armored plated vehicle. It's also kind of lead lined. No way anybody's going to be listening in. Putin was chatting away in English, much to the dismay of probably many of the world leaders who are thinking, oh shit, he's understood what we've been saying. But we have to bear in mind, people forget that Putin worked so for the FSB. Well, he was the head of the FSB, which is kind of like the American FBI and the UK's MI5. I always get ours upside down. I think MI5 is inside the UK, and MI6 is outside the UK. So for USA, that is the CIA, and in Russia, that's KGB. So he was quite high up in the KGB. He was kind of in charge of teams. So he was in the KGB, in charge of teams. Then he went over to the FSB. He was the head of the FSB, so directly reported to the Russian Prime Minister or President. I'm not sure which one they have. President. It's President Putin, isn't it? So he's got this. Putin knows a lot, right? And it's not, and Russia's not the same as the UK, and it's not the same as America, right? So the person in charge in Russia is in charge, right? There's no secret teams above Putin. Putin has all the information. He has access to everything. What we have in America is you have the president here, and then you have MJ12 and cosmic clearance, and you have all of these where the president's not even need to know. And what goes on in Starmer hasn't got a fucking clue. He's a puppet anyway, right? But in Russia, the guy on top is the guy on top. So it just kind of got me thinking about, why Alaska? Yes, it was probably secure and safe and neutral, potentially neutral territory. Obviously, there's warrants out for Putin's arrest for war crimes in Ukraine, and all of this bullshit. And media went into he's Putin will have KGB-fied him and will have got the wool over Trump's it's silly. So there's also, with regards to the whole potential Melania Romanov descendant, do I think she's related to? I believe they were all killed. The immediate royal family were all murdered. And I could say I watched a documentary and they found the two kids that were missing and they unearthed them all, and but they lie all the time. So who the fuck knows? But obviously she then wrote a letter to Putin saying it's time. So I'm hoping that means all this shit's going to start coming out because, you know, Russiagate is supposedly coming out. But if you speak to anybody who follows mainstream news, they don't know about it. They don't know about it. So will we see peace in the Ukraine? I fucking hope so. Right? I hope so for the people, right? And potentially then we start rounding up all the fucking criminals that are profiteering off the UK and the USA and the other European kind of taxpayers for warmongering. But it sounds like Starmer and Europe are saying that he has to join NATO, right? Putin will never agree to that, ever. And he shouldn't. He shouldn't. So they're just going to they want to keep it going, right? They like the UK has already destroyed the potential peace deal that was supposed to happen in like 2 weeks after it started, right? That was fucktard Bojo who did that. So I'm very frustrated with it all, but we'll see. Anyway, but it also kind of got me thinking, and I've been thinking about this quite a lot when it comes to people who have been and or are currently still being mind controlled, right? And we talk about brainwashing, like the mass population are being brainwashed, which is like a kind of like low level mind control, right? If they stop the propaganda, turn off the kind of non-stop frequency barrage, and can teach people in schools how to think very quickly, the vast majority of the population will, I mean, most of them won't acknowledge the fact that they were absolutely vile individuals and were wrong, but they will all of a sudden kind of come to the realization that things got a bit out of hand, right? This is just fucking crazy. And, you know, presented with enough information, they will then be able to see, right, that Obama is a sick fuck, that John Brennan, sick fuck, Hillary Clinton, absolutely sick fuck. But then it goes back to the whole generational extreme trauma that people go through. So for those of you who aren't in the UK, or maybe you're in the UK and you don't know, one of the things that Sammy Woodhouse, who is who was, you know, groomed. So she's very, very outspoken and a lovely lady. I've never met her, but had a couple of conversations on X, and you know, she's very prominent in the whole grooming and pushing the inquiry. So I read her book as well. So one of the things that she pushed for, because there were lots of victims of the Pakistani rape gangs, and they were using the child victims to commit the crimes, right? To be the ones who are passing the drugs. So when you look at all the county line stuff, so pushing for a law in the UK that if you have been groomed and you commit a crime, is that then doesn't kind of be a stain on your record. And we see this a lot with specifically with the grooming gang scandal, is that the victims and the victims' family members who were the ones who were being convicted. Obviously not, you can't convict the rapists and the groomers and the people who are collecting the children, because they're selling them to the people who are in charge, right? So you can't, you don't cut off your supply. I mentioned this before. So, but we already have that law in the UK. And when Shamima Begum was trying to come back to the UK, and everybody's saying, you know, she's vile, she's terrible, and I kept saying, but she was a child. People have to stop attaching emotion to the law, right? So we can have emotion, we can have opinions, we can feel the way we want to feel, but justice needs to be blind. The law needs to be blind, and this is where I think it go like the entire legal system needs to be ripped up, and it needs to be like the punishment fits the crime, and there are mitigating circumstances with regards to capacity, right? Mental capacity, whether that is due to you having some kind of neurological dysfunction or age, right? But using actual neuroscience to kind of define those things rather than, you know, just making shit up as you go along. And if we use the neuroscience understanding of brain development, we actually don't fully understand the consequences of our actions until kind of like early 20s. And guys, it's kind of mid 20s, right? That's when we kind of get this frontal lobe is working properly. So it's absolutely ludicrous 16 and 17-year-olds are going to be allowed to vote. And people will say that, right? But on the flip side, we have 10-year-olds who go to prison for murder, right? So at some point, we have to decide either children have the mental capacity to understand these things or they don't. And I would always argue anybody under 18 just doesn't at all. Like, just no ifs, no buts. And I think I mean, I think under 18 is probably a little bit too early, but you know, fucking like gotta give them an opportunity to kind of do stuff. So the majority of the hormonal fuck ups is kind of dealt with by the time you're kind of 18, 19, right? So they need that protection. We also don't want children who are 13 to be having sex, right? At all. We don't. But 3 years earlier, they can be tried for murder, right? So you're not mentally, you don't have the mental capacity to decide whether you want to have sexual intercourse, but you can decide that you want to enter somebody else's life and be culpable. But you're not allowed to leave school until you're 18 because you're not mentally competent enough to make decisions for yourself, right? So this is the fucked upness of the UK justice system. And I would argue that it's probably the same all over. So going back to what I was kind of talking about is that in the UK, we have this law that if you are, and I agree with it. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't have it, but it needs to be applied equally. And there were lots of people who were arguing against it being applied for Shamima Begum because they didn't like the crime. Right? They didn't like the ideology that she was trapped in, and they didn't like the crime. So she did some absolutely horrific things. It does not mean she does not deserve to be punished, right? So she was groomed. So with her, with her she was like promoting beheading and recruiting, and so she was she had an extreme involvement in terrorist activities, and the problem with terrorist activities and being wrapped up in any kind of ideology is that the only way you reverse that is if you decide to, right? So while she shouldn't be treated in the same way as the adults who consciously decided I'm going to go fight, you know, definitely somebody who should have been, you know, on tag, not allowed to kind of just have complete free reign. But again, you know, one rule, right? But it's had me thinking for a while about the generational, you know, Illuminati families, for want of a better phrase, right? Especially after kind of listening to Dr. Amen talking about Jesus, right? And you know, the drugging and the purple, and you know, him shouting, "I'm not a lace." And by the way, that kind of got me thinking, what if Jesus was a multiple, right? So the fact that the first thing he shouts is "I'm not a lace Stace" is very interesting when you look at, you know, rest in peace Peter Hyatt, when you think about and consider statement analysis. And we can't guarantee that what's written in the Bible is true, but we're just going to like pretend, right? Pretend it's true. That the first thing when he was caught with the like half naked, well, fully naked boy, with his doodah out, covered in purple, which is a drug, um, needing the antidote, which is prepubescent semen and prepubescent milk from girls' nipples. We know that the Jewish practices do promote abuse of young under threes, right? From three, which is something that happens, trickles down. It's something that they do in the Catholic Church. So we have to kind of go back to source to kind of understand these things. So this isn't like a new practice. This is something that's been going on. And there was lots of different pieces of evidence to show that, Mary was kind of chosen, picked, moved into, it's like to become a prophet. And that's basically she's palmed off into, a where they're abused, right? They're abused and tortured because how do you enhance somebody's psi skills, right? So with the information we know about MK Ultra and how they were enhancing and creating and enhancing psychic abilities in humans, is drugs, is torture, is disassociation, is creating multiples. Mary was abused from 3 because she would have had to have been, because that's part of the things that they were doing as part of the cult, right? And so then Jesus probably was also abused from the age of 3 and tortured and all of those things. And we know that then creates splits, right? So what if the I'm not a late-stage Jesus is the one who's kind of like, fuck, like I'm in this space, there's a naked boy, got no idea what the fuck's going on, because it's not him, it's another him within a multiple, right? It's just a potential theory. But with regards to, we know, right? So we know they have, but again, it's so surreal when you're talking to somebody who is switching. The subtle changes in facial features, tone, and it was obvious to me because I'm trained to pay attention to behavior and mannerisms, right? So I would suggest that for lots of people it probably isn't recognizable, probably wouldn't realize, but anyway. But what if so I really want you to kind of consider this, because the people who've done the most sick and twisted things are generational, right? So we're going back like thousands and thousands and thousands of years of persistent trauma-based mind control techniques, which are enhanced with drugs, right? Which are enhanced and made easier, I would argue, with all the kind of electronic stuff that we have nowadays. So if we've decided somebody who's been groomed, right? Groomed and brainwashed shouldn't be held responsible, fully responsible for their crimes, right? Where do we stand with people who have been abused and now wired for that to be the norm, right? So this is why pedophiles pick on children under the age 7. It's very specific with regards to brain development. You have to get them under the age of 7 because that's where their brain goes from alpha to beta, and it's not like you wake up on your 7th birthday and your brain switches. It's when it kind of starts, right? But also the children under the age of 7, the authority figure, the adult are the world, right? They will listen to the authority figure above everything, and this is why it's so fucking dangerous what the teachers are doing in our primary schools, because they are seen as like what they say is gospel, right? It's the word of God that comes out of their mouths, and then from age 7 it kind of switches to their peers, so you have to do it before age 7. So if you've been relentlessly abused, your wiring's changed. One of the things that they do is they inverse pleasure and pain, right? So that when you're being abused, like horrifically abused, um, they will tell you it's because they love you, right? So that they just fuck with your wiring. So if you've then this links into frazzle drip, right? So Hillary, if you've never heard about frazzle drip, it's a conspiracy theory, right? It's allegedly that Hillary and Huma Abedin, the Wiener laptop, which everybody forgets about, right? Where they flay a young girl's face, and then Hillary's kind of wearing it. And I seen the stills, and I landed on I managed to stop the video. This was 5 years ago. Please don't go looking for it. I was not looking for it at all. But so when people are like, well, how could anybody find enjoyment in flaying a young girl's face? Well, because she was trained that way from the abuse she endured as an infant, and would have continued to endure that abuse relentlessly until 16 for definite. That's kind of like the passing out parade. If you go, if you go and join the army or whatever, you're going to do your training and then you do your passing out parade. And then it continues, right? It doesn't stop. And it continues more for women being the abused, right? And it's not to say they don't do horrible things to guys as well, but you're less like, once you kind of hit puberty and you're a boy, you tend not to be as useful, right? So when you're asking, well, why are they all like obsessed with abusing young children? It's because they're wired that way because they were abused as young children, right? We have to start having these real conversations, and because at some point these are really going to come to the forefront. Are they really culpable, right? And this is not me saying that they shouldn't be like put somewhere out of society, right? Because the reason why we have a prison is to protect the population, right, from dangerous people. But what if you woke up tomorrow, right? You woke up tomorrow and then you realized, and you just kind of like, or alters kind of like appeared, right? And this is what kind of starts to happen for about, like, if you're no longer continually abused, so once you hit about 30, things start to break down, right? Which is why they use drugs, why they have to keep up with the abuse, and use electronics and stuff like this. So they have to, because your brain starts to go, you need to deal with this now. So what if you woke up and then you discovered that you had been like assassinating people, as part of the one of the Alpha assassinations? Or what if or is that Delta, sorry? Or what if you woke up and you're a beta kitten and you found out that you had been had horrific things done to you, but then also had done like really dodgy shit, right? Because in order for you to get there, you would have had to do some really dark stuff as well. Right. So one of the things they get you to do is they buddy you up with somebody. So you have a friend, right? And they don't just do it with humans, they do it with like animals as well. Like, so they give you a pet for your birthday. Oh my gosh, I should have probably done like a trigger warning or something before I started talking about this. My apologies. They give you a pet, right? And then on your birthday, they make you kill it. They pair you up with somebody, and then they throw you in a ring, and then only one of you is to come out alive, right? And they do all of these things to completely destroy you, right? They so we've all seen and heard of like waterboarding. They take it to the extremes, right? They actually drown you and then lay you on a slab and tell you that the only way you're going to live, and like they kind of bring you half back to life and tell you you have to have a demon attached to you, right? The demon saves you, right? So it's important we talk about the realities of what many of these individuals have been through. And then you start to understand why they're so fucking compliant. And it's not everybody, right? It's not everybody. People do escape. People do break away. People know it's wrong. People, right? But the vast majority go along with it because like they want to live, right? And if you look at the coronavirus, the vast majority of medical professionals said nothing for their mortgage, right? So this is not just them. This is a majority human trait. There's 1% of the population who are the outliers, right? 1%, right? And this is what the bystander effect teaches us. This is why when we see people on social media and they are watching somebody getting like fucking murdered, nobody's doing anything, right? The bystander effect proves the more people around, the less likely people are to act. So if you take that on an entire globe, right? If you know there's 8.5 billion people, oh, probably Rocks, sorry. I always get kicked off. I'm on Rumble as well at the same time. That may not be working either. Annex. Let me just do a quick. And I'm actually being, yeah, you're not allowed to talk about. This is what I got binned for last time. Oh yeah, they throttle in my download speed is at my upload. Yeah. So I'm supposed to have like 200 megabits downloads and about 40, 50 upload. And then response time is like 156, and that should be like, I don't know, like 10 or something. My apologies. I will keep going, but I am on other platforms. So it should be like the links to the other platforms below that they might be a bit more stable. Fuckers. So yeah, so bystander effect teaches us that the more people who are around, like the less likely we are to act. So then you kind of like extrapolate that to 8.5 billion people, right? So even if you just even like pull it right back into just the people in the NHS, right? So every single doctor and nurse who showed up who knew 30% refused to get the vaccine, right? Because they saw what it was doing. Less than 1% quit over it, right? Less than 1% actually said, I am not going to harm these. I'm not going to harm people. I'm not doing that. I'm going to stop. And maybe less than 1% of those 1% actually started speaking out. So when people start saying, well, you know, they could have left, right? Well, we have to understand human behavior, right? They understand human behavior really fucking well. Oh yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Frazzle drip. Ah well. Yeah. I might not be here tomorrow on YouTube. That's fine. Maybe if I talk about something else. It's probably because I led with Trump and Putin as well, didn't I? As well. So nobody likes the fact that Trump is actually bringing peace. But we do have to be really mindful of the fact that people. like, they didn't grow up the same way as we did, right? And I say we collectively, like, I experienced a very unhappy childhood, and I had bouts of horrificness, but it wasn't relentless. Yeah, it wasn't relentless. Um, and you're isolated, and you see people being killed, like, that's a you it's not just like a it may happen, it's like a it fucking happened. The same as, like, you know, even in, like, the mafia and the mob, right? They kill the rats. So, you know, snitches get stitches. Like, we all kinda know these phrases. Like, imagine having since childhood, it instilled in you that unless you do what you're told, that's game over, right? And everybody you know is killed, right? Or will be killed. You know, every time you make a friend, like, oh, they're in the ring with you. Let's not make friends. So you're isolated, you're alone, you've been relentlessly abused. Your wiring's completely fucked so that you are sadistic, right? So, and sadism is not a natural human tendency, right? Psychopathy is after kind of early normal trauma, right? If you undergo some kind of like normal trauma, you know, before empathy kicks in, then you will withdraw, right? You will withdraw. You are quite likely to just not turn on your empathy and develop empathy. And so that's psychopathy. So you just don't give a shit, right? You don't go out of your way to harm people. You don't get pleasure out of harming people. You just don't get you wouldn't give a shit if somebody got harmed in the process, as long as you were getting everything that you needed. Sadism is pleasure and enjoyment in causing other people harm, right? That only happens if your wiring's been messed with, and your wiring will have only been messed with if you have had your pleasure and pain, like, twisted. And FYI, is this kind of shit that Tony Robbins teaches. And he how anybody can't see that he is a freaking oh. Am I back? I think I'm back. Oh, no, look at me naming all the names, right? So how anyone can't see that Tony Robbins is not a mass fucking Illuminati programmer on the masses, I do not understand how people do not see it. The fact that he teaches and uses an NLP, right, which is Illuminati, like mind control based programming with words, and, you know, Scientology, like, which is CIA, they were just, you know, the fact that he teaches people to twist emotion, so you're not and multiple appear out of nowhere. um Personal development gurus all of a sudden teach you're not fearful, you're excited, right? That's the pleasure pain crosswire, right? How do people not see this? It's just disgusting and ludicrous. But I do want to just kind of plant in your minds, you know, I know that it's very easy to people are chanting, you know, like, hang them all, right? Well, I mean, I don't agree with murder anyway, like state sanctioned, any of it, right? And for people who are, and I'm going to pick on the Christians again, because you're supposed to believe in forgiveness and redemption. Like, nobody can have redemption. Thank you, Rox. Nobody can have redemption if they're dead. Um, yeah, we gotta be careful, because we look at people with our own understanding of the world, you know, judging people without actually considering the realities of the situation of what happened, right? So let's talk about like where's our humanity? Like, where's our humanity if we are not even trying to comprehend and understand, genuinely trying to comprehend how somebody could do that? So to instantly go, they're not human, they're reptilians. I mean, that's a fucking cop out. It's a real cop out that I do not, but I'm sorry, just this and it doesn't mean like I don't believe there aren't aliens and all of that stuff, but to kind of instantly go, well, they're fucking lizard people. Like, no, they're humans who were abused relentlessly. That's why they're behaving this way. And when we understand that, we understand why they're doing what they're doing, we can then understand why they want to fucking depopulate us, right? Because they see us as useless. They're laughing at us. We are just food. We're cannon fodder. And actually, it will be a lot easier to control when there's only 25% of the population left, right? So just a logistics thing. It makes sense. If I was a sadistic, fucked up person, I wouldn't want to deal with all the bloody bullshit that you get every day with, like, look at reality TV, right? Look at shit like Love Island. I think the majority of humanity are fucking pathetic. And my used to make me laugh, saying, well, sometimes I kind of agree with them because look at all these people who are fucking useless. And I was like, well, I know, but we have to understand where they came from too, right? Okay, let's have humanity for everybody. And again, does it mean that they shouldn't be somewhere secure? No. 100% they should not be mingling around. It does not mean that they didn't commit these horrible things. It doesn't mean that they couldn't have left. Other people did. However, if we're going to have mitigating circumstances, and I think we should, for somebody who's been in a domestic violent relationship, who all of a sudden has had enough and just murders the domestic violent person, we're saying that's self-defense. I don't disagree with that, right? But we can't have mitigating circumstances for the people that we like, the people that we agree with. This is where the justice has to be blind. This is where the law needs to apply equally across the board, whether you like that person or not, whether you agree with their ideology or not. This is driving me crackers that people just don't seem to be able to do this. And this is going to be an absolute bedrock of a fully functioning and healthy society moving forward. Otherwise, we're going to end up in the same fucked up place in the future, because we're all going to be batting for the side that we agree with, rather than sitting and deciding, actually, this is fundamentally wrong, regardless of how it's happening, right? And they're throwing it in our faces with the old two-tier stuff we get in the UK at the minute, and they had that in the USA, right? So they would look at the shit that they were doing with the January 6 peeps. Okay, so hopefully we'll find out if there is peace in Ukraine. I mean, if somebody kind of finds out, do kind of tell me as we go, because that'd be cool. It'd be really nice for it to happen. I wonder how it would be. Oh, it'd be spun that it was Starmer and Macron who did it, won't it? That's fucking arseholes. Anyway, so on to the next thing. Flag frenzy. So I have been very wary, and I've said for 5 years, because so for those of you who are kind of new, like Madness and Mayhem may only be on episode 21, but that's because I kind of got removed from YouTube. So I kind of started doing shows. It was twice a week back in 2020, and it was just all about all the psyops that were going on, trying to help people see, and obviously you're not allowed to help people see what's going on. So I went to one of the very early COVID Rona protests. So I went to the second one in the UK. The first one was in London. The day after, it was in Bristol. And we had It was obvious while I was there that the organizers were trying to get arrested, right? So when you have to if you're doing a march, you have to kind of tell the police where you're going in advance so they can make sure the roads are closed, and you have to do all this stuff. The same as if you're putting a parade on. They have to cordon streets off, and the police were really nice, and they were friendly, and we were chatting to them, and they were not vicious and evil, and they didn't try and freaking beat us up. And the organizers were like, they're telling us we have to go down there because that's where we're supposed to go. I think we should cut through there. And because we were all just like normal people, we're like, why? Like, why are we going to go over there? Like, let's go the route that we pre-agreed to go, because that's only going to piss the police off, right? And it's not that you can't go down there if you want to. Go for it. But actually, we're all going to go this way. Like, it was, and they were encouraging you to they were just encouraging you to behave very, it's not unprofessionally, but impolite, right? So for people who aren't in Britain and the UK, we're quite polite. I mean, this is why we don't do so well with machete wielding non-natives, is the whole stereotypes of drinking tea and having cheese and cucumber sandwiches is who we are, and we quite enjoy it, and we quite enjoy, I enjoy is probably not the right word. We do stand in line, and we do get very annoyed with people who cut, right? So we are a very polite society. And so the idea of no, no, that's okay. We are coming. We're not wearing masks, and we're supposed to be wearing masks, right? At this point, we're not wearing masks. We are allowed to use our megaphones. We're allowed to hand leaflets out. We're allowed to break the social distancing rule because they realized they couldn't enforce that, right? So there was the police were kind of letting us, break supposed COVID guidelines to do it all anyway. At the time when they were trying to stop protests, so to do something to purposely then have the police, because they would have, right, in order for us to go down this bit, the police would have had to fucking close ranks. They would have had to block us, and then you would have what you see, right, where people are going, oh, you won't let us go down, and that's the bits they're going to record, right? And nobody's saying, well, actually, you agreed, you go here, we blocked all these roads off, you're trying to go there, there's a main fucking road there, that's really dangerous, you're going to be like stopping traffic, that's against this law, like the highway, like it was done, right? So it was really nice to kind of see it firsthand. And so I'd already kind of told people, if you're going, just be careful. And I told people then, I'm going to go and go to see what happens, right? So I went and I saw, and it was everything that I thought it was, like just bullshit. But it brings us on to flag frenzy, because what we've had over the weekend, so we've had continued real people protesting about the illegals. But what we had is we've now had it infiltrated. So how do I know that it's been infiltrated? Because now we had the pink ladies, right? So we had the pink ladies in Epping, and there were heightened tensions with the police, with a lady on a mobility scooter, right? We've had like the St. George's flag and the Union Jack being kind of like overnighted up on lampposts. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be there, right? I think we should all be flying like the national flag, right? I think we should. But this is a coordinated, non-organic, right? Because if it was organic, it wouldn't happen in multiple places at exactly the same time. It doesn't, right? And I want you to think about your own reality of posting something on social media. Maybe I had like a really good idea. Maybe you've got like a few hundred followers. Maybe you've got a few thousand followers. Like, how many people actually see that? But how many people actually see what you've posted and then run with it? 5, 6. I don't know. Sometimes when I when when I post stuff that really pisses the lefties off, maybe like a few thousand see it, but how many people then take action, right? In order for you, somebody's got to order the flags. Somebody's got to pick where they're going. People have got to get up and do it. It happened in multiple towns and cities at exactly the same time. That's coordinated. That's not grassroots. That's purposeful. And what we saw was the result, right? So we've seen Birmingham Council have been taking them down, right? So why would you do it in Birmingham? Why would you pick Birmingham, right? Well, because Birmingham has got huge swathes of non-white population. They are, I'm sure the mayor is now doesn't even fucking speak English. I'm sure that's Birmingham where that's happening. So the places have been targeted specifically to bring on the civil war. And I said, like last week and the week before, I wasn't going to talk about the fucking civil war, but you fucktards keep doing it, and it's really frustrating. So we're going to talk through different agents, right? Agents of disinformation agents. And then it'd be like, we'll play like disinformation bingo. So the first one we've got is like agent of influence. So these can be unwitting. Yeah. Undermine control or ideologically motivated to use their positions of influence to sway the minds of others. So we've got like TV journalists, leaders, TV commentators, academics quoted by the media, politicians, and obviously all of the influencers who are literally called influence, like they're not even don't even hide it, like just journalist, right? This MI6 agent is a journalist. Oh no, they're just an influencer, right? Their literal job is to influence what you think, do, and behave. Okay, so they're one that we know they're being paid, and they're definitely being paid by the UK media. They were being paid during the Rona. They're being paid now. They will be being paid over Gaza, and now we've got the first 30 Gaza starving children to come over because there's no medical facilities anywhere except the NHS hospitals, which are mass murdering camps. So I wouldn't want to go there if I try my hardest not to go to the hospital. So good luck to those Gazan children. Like, I really wish them the best flying over on an aeroplane ride to a dangerous hospital in a country with people who don't speak your language. It's not going to be scary at all under any circumstances. I mean, I want to know what the Red Cross are doing and what's going on with all the freaking ambulances and stuff and all the money that we sent to look after these people. Like, why? Like, what happened to? Like, who picked those 30 kids? Like, why those 30 kids specifically? Like, what was wrong with the 31st child, right? Anyway, that's what we know. So we have confusion agents. These are agents whose job it is to produce confusion by disseminating confounding information. I mean, I would say that's the majority of people who have quite big followings on social media. Okay, we have contract agents. These are the rogue agents, such as the mob, who the CIA get to do particular jobs on contract, and their connections can always be denied. So we have other contract-based agents. So we have Serco in the UK. Right, so they control the prisons. They control. Haven't they just been given like huge military contacts? Now they're going to do all the recruitment for the military, which is always a good idea, right? So it's plausible deniability, right? So you can pay somebody else to do it, and then, oh well, we had guidelines that they didn't follow. Um, Deep cover agent, a sleeper agent, in this case, often program multiple or person with mind control programming who's been a long-term sleeper agent. So this is at the one estimate this is a while ago, there was like potentially 2 million sleeper agents in the USA, right? And that was like decades ago. So the number will be drastically increased. Because it's easier now, right? With the invention of technology, or I say the invention of technology, you know what I mean? With the mass pushing of mobile phones, the fact that a lot of the kids use games, right? And Roblox is come under fire for paedophilia and grooming. So the military are, and this is across the globe, different, military figures use computer games to groom children, and flip them. So what if, so we're talking about ideology, but what if it's very easy to manipulate somebody, especially if you are if you're spending like 10 hours a day gaming, then you don't have a very good support network. Anyway, so there's deep cover agents, and where the whole back in the day, the phone goes and then there's a code word and all of a sudden you're now a sadistic psychopath because they pulled out the multiple that was trained in, right? So like we would never know who they were. And sometimes I look at some of the people who are pushed to the front and center on social media, and I have it in my mind. I'm trying to work out whether they are linked, and this is just like they're just having shits and giggles, pretending that they're for the people, or do they genuinely believe they are because it's some kind of program multiple and they didn't even know anything about it? But how would we know? How would we know if they don't even know? Disinformation agent. I mean, this is like anybody who works for the BBC, right? This is highly placed agent who passes disinformation to other governments. But I would also say just like we can do disinformation is just like mainstream media. And all of our politicians at the moment in the UK. A notional agent, a fictitious. Now, this one was interesting. A fictitious, non-existent agent, which is created with a real-looking identity to mislead. And the reason why I thought this was interesting is because the first person who came to mind is the head of MI5, the new head of MI5, who has got Russian, Ukrainian, Nazi roots. It's quite interesting that people are talking about this like 2 weeks after the fact, that, like the day she was promoted, like it was on a Monday because I came here armed with all of that information. And then, it took the media and other journalists like weeks to find it out. Like, I mean, I didn't do lots of digging. I just went to the internet. But then still, I haven't heard anybody else address the fact that nobody knows what her actual birthday is, despite the fact that she was at Cambridge University, despite the fact that we all know she was part of the team that won, the women's team that won whatever year that was in 2007. But nobody knows what her birthday is. It could be 1 year and it could be another year. But I mean, so she's a real one, potentially. But is she, right? Is she a real one? Or is she a fake one? And we don't actually know who the real one is? Because, I mean, AI is pretty fucking clever. I actually made an AI video reel this like earlier. I plugged in a photo of me and I said, turn me, because what's the quote? Is something about being a hero. I don't know. the hardest work is done on the inside, be your own hero, something along those lines. Um, and so I plugged in a photo of me and I told the AI to turn me into a hero like She-Ra, right? Because I freaking love She-Ra as a child. And so she still is my hero, right? And it was a photo, maybe I should find, like, it's phenomenal, right? Like, uh, mm, I can do this. I know how to do this stuff. Bear with me. Let's because it's insane, right? Oh, like, so it was like, that's the photo, and it's got me moving, and I've got a sword. Like that was it. Like, and that was free to do because obviously you got the branding in the bottom. That it turned a photo into a fully moving, and then a sword appeared out of nowhere, right? So this technology, obviously the technology that we have now, they've had for a very long time. And it always annoys me when you watch, I don't know how to get it off the screen though. How do I do that? Marmite. I had Marmite and toast yesterday for the first time in about 18 months, and thought of you, Chris. And it came in a really squeezy bottle, and I almost didn't buy it because the jar I would have normally bought had like Pride shit on. And I was in Sainsbury's for a while staring at it going, I can't believe you've just ruined Marmite. But I really wanted it, so I bought a different bottle. I just didn't buy the Pride bottle. And funnily enough, the Pride bottles on the shelf were full, and the other sizes, and even the smaller size, which is more expensive, which is what I bought, I opted to pay more for a non-Pride bottle. The smaller size were like, there wasn't very many left, and the big size, which is like, I don't know, like fucking tub like this, was almost gone, right? The Pride one was full. But yeah, so that was free, right? And if you look at older TV, you know that they're using kind of green screens and AIs, and it's done so much better than the shit they have on telly now. Even though technology, like that free thing, could do that all by itself. So they're doing it to mess with us. So how do we know? How do we know that the people we think we see are who we see, right? And there's a guy called Anthony Gallo who I bought some of his courses. So he like does like video editing and stuff. I mean, not very good, right? He's like professional video editor, and I was just like, I don't understand this shit. And the only thing I do is like I cut out my ums on my reels. I cut out the ums and the ahs, and then me bashing the microphone. I was like, right, like I can do that bit, and that's about it. Bless Anthony Gallo. But so he's now done an entire course where there's an ad on Instagram I saw it the other day for his course, and the entire thing's him in AI, right? He's AI'd himself, and a few times you can kind of tell it's AI, but this is because we're using the technology we were allowed to use, right? So they had hologram and portal technology, and Julian Assange was portal technology back in 2012, which is the hologram. Like they it looked like he was there on stage. So the technology we're allowed to use can do this. Now think about the technology that they have, and all of these notional agents and all the people you see on social media, maybe they don't even show their face, right? How many people never show you who they are? They don't have they don't have their real names, right? I mean, we know a lot of things are bots, but it's not just bots, right? It's actual people with backstories, and they do this all the time, right? They do it for I say legitimate reasons. Like you have undercover police and agents and stuff like that who are doing good work. Well, I mean, not all of them, but some of them are. what we had the whole scandal in the UK where they were taking like dead baby names and repurposing them. So how do you know the person you're listening to is even a real person? It freaks me out, right? So when people were saying to me ages ago, like years ago, you shouldn't have your full first name, and I was like, but no, I'm gonna. If I'm gonna say something, I'm gonna stand by it, right? Because like either stand up and be counted or don't, right? And I'm one of those 1% outliers though that would the bystander effect just doesn't affect me. And I only realize afterwards that I shouldn't have jumped into that fight because I probably could have ended up dead. Or I shouldn't have jumped into the canal to rescue the dog because I didn't want my niece and nephew to see their dog die, and I could have died, right? So that's the way that my brain goes, "Oh no, let's fix the situation." And then about 10 minutes later it goes, "You could have died there, Kate." So it's good that 99% of the population kind of their brain kicks in before they act. But yeah, so always remember, like, this is a known agent, the fake one, right? A fake agent. So when you see people pushing things, right? Take the emotion out of everything that you're seeing, right? Take if you can't, try your best to detach yourself from the emotion of the stuff. Um, but it's really easy, and I get caught up in it. Like I'm human, and I'm trying. But this is like if we're all trying, then at some point we'll succeed. So the other one we've got is a provocation agent. So an agent sent in to provoke and destabilize the target group to do foolish things. This is like Tommy Robinson, 100%. Right. And I do swing between like he's too dumb, kind of thing. And he's just being used, right? So they don't necessarily have to be aware of the con, but he's definitely very good at I mean, don't think he is, and this awful thing to say, isn't it? I don't think he's intelligent enough to be um, consciously planning the things, right? Seems like he's very easily led, and he's had multiple. He's you get him angry, and he will go. He will just go, right? We all will. We all will. But he's had multiple instances where he's kicked off, but more so coming from people who used to be around him. He used to tell people, very much like what I witnessed in Bristol, and it wasn't Tommy Robinson, by the way. Very much what I witnessed in Bristol. There was a few people who were trying to get things done, right? And we had, kind of like protests over the weekend, and there were people wearing masks. So why were the peaceful Epping style protests that were happening with the ladies in pink, why were there masked individuals, right? And if you're at one of these events and you see somebody in a fucking mask, then you ask the police officer to arrest them, right? It's unlawful to wear masks at protests in the United Kingdom, which it should be. Right. So if you want them to arrest the Antifa lot for wearing a mask, then you have to ask them to arrest your lot for wearing a mask. Right. So this is like, we've got to stop being fucking hypocrites. But there will be people purposely there to stir shit up. Especially now, none of them are organic. They're all organized. And at the March for Israel the week before, they had like printed and perfect placards, so that's organized. It's not like they all go, oh, you went to Mr. Smith down the road to get your placard too. Oh, we did the exact same one for me. Like, it's not how it works, right? And then we have a spoon feeder agent. So somebody who dribbles out legitimate information. This is often done to build up a person's credentials. So lots of people who pretending to expose the New World Order are spoon feeder agents who provide little new information, tons of already known secrets, and sprinkle in a measure of disinformation for added fun. And then they increase the disinformation once they gain respectability. So And I've always like so I say I've always said it's just because we've been here for such a long time, right? We can't genuinely in a month it'll be 5 years since I initially started the shows, right? Anybody who rose to fame during the Rona and we're talking about the Rona and we're not completely obliterated from social media, they're not natural people talking about it. Like that was the easiest test, right? We have anybody who then went and got a fucking career on GB News, right? Especially when GB News got rid of the one person who was actually talking about it all properly and everybody else is still there, right? In order for you to then go get a contract with a news agency who has lawyers who will not have you saying stuff that they're not allowed to say, like I just the number of people who still think GB News is like it's stupid. Anyway, you can't fix stupid. You can try. You can try. But so yes, there we go. Civil war again. Especially if Trump does another peace deal. Right, they will hot it up and they will need to be doing it fast because we've only got maybe 3 weeks before the kids go back to school, maybe 4 weeks before the uni students go back. So we've got the teachers will be starting to they won't be able to kind of be on the picket lines, saying that the rapists and the murderers should be allowed to have houses while their families shouldn't. You know, they all might have to go back to work soon and get very angry at the fact that they have to get paid to brainwash the children. I get very angry that they're getting paid to brainwash our children, who I think we legitimately can get angry. They get angry because they're just fucking angry. Okay, so we've got the onto your energetic fingerprint and the ID card consultation. So ID consultation finishes in 2 days. I'd planned on doing mine today, but I didn't. So I wrote it on my hand, and I'm reminding you all to do it. So I will be sorting mine out tomorrow, hopefully. I'll have to write it on my hand again, otherwise I'll forget again. Let me do it again, because when you wash your hands, it rubs off. So ID consult. Okay, so we do have to do that. They're still gonna fucking do it anyway, but at least we've got it on record that we opposed it, right? So when in the records, when they're looking back at the craziness that happened in the 20th and 21st century, in the history books, they're going, well, at least there's a list of these people's names. At least these people's names will actually, they tried, right? It wasn't like we all just let it happen. It's nothing to police in Ukraine is nothing to do with Zelensky. He's just a puppet. So peace in Ukraine would only come when every single politician in Europe is rounded up, to be fair. And the UN is shut down and NATO is shut down. And then all of the Ukrainian politicians are rounded up as well. So, but I think Trump's probably got his binder full of, this is all the shit that we know about you. I actually hope that this is them, that they've all now just been arrested and we'll just see pretend thems, other pretend thems come out. like for the charade, and then they'll slowly disappear from the public eye. And they'll be like, "Oh, I'm stepping down. I'm not very well," all of that kind of crap as they've actually all been arrested and gitmoed. If I was a if I was a baddie politician, no fucking way I'd go to America. No way. Um, I'd be like, I'm just gonna live in my bunker. Actually, I'm gonna do the Joe Biden treatment. I'm gonna do the Joe Biden. I'm just gonna live in my bunker because I know you're gonna try and round me up and execute me and tell the world all the sick fucking twisted shit I did. So yes, your energetic fingerprint, but remember, guys, you do have to do the ID consultation if you're in the UK. So, and if you don't know what to say, just like have an idea of what you want to say and then use an AI to help you. But make sure you say, like, how does this breach laws? How does this breach privacy? There is Big Brother Watch, who is obviously controlled opposition, right? Because it's linked into the Guardian, like the giant eye roll there. So you can see what they're saying to give yourself ideas, and then you can use an AI and say, well, XYZ. So you can craft it better if you want, but you don't have to kind of use your own noggin anymore. It's a lot easier now to fill them in, but just make sure you're doing it off how you feel, your experience, and I'm pretty sure there is already a law saying that it's unnecessary. But basically, just so you know how I'm gonna be looking at it, we don't need ID cards. You just need to fucking get rid of the people who don't belong here. And I said the other day, didn't I? I don't need an ID. Just speak to me and you will know I'm British born and bred, right? And anybody who isn't born and bred, they probably have to have their visa passport anyway, right? I've got a passport, right? It's out of date because I don't go anywhere. I've got a driver's license. Thanks, Carl. Send me a message. I don't normally do other I don't mind talking. I'm a good I enjoy talking, let me say. Anyway, so we're talking about energetic fingerprints. Like, so this whole thing is redundant anyway, right? So we don't actually need ID cards, right? So this is I mean, we have you don't even need 23andMe to track your genealogy, right? So I'm going to talk about a 1950s. It was kind of really prominent in the 1950s monk, right? I don't know whether he is a monk. Abbe Mehmet. He's French. Anyway, and so just for the Christians I haven't alienated, this is not satanic. This is human, right? And actually, Abbe Mehmet had the Pope, if you're Catholic, the Pope wrote to him and said, "I'd love what you're doing," and employed him a few times. Will do. Thank you. I employed him a few times, right? So so this is about radiesthesia and dowsing. So not the dowsing rod, and you can use a rod, and you can find water, and you can find minerals, and you can do lots of things, but it's testing energy, right? So this leads into quantum physics and quantum entanglement, and we're all just energy. Okay, so just go with the flow. One of the things that they discovered. Oh, I'm gonna go get a book. Wait. Okay. So one of the things that Abbe Mehmet was famous for was for finding kidnapped children, finding murdered kids. He also kind of found water for places. He flew all over the world to do this stuff, but he was especially good at finding kidnapped kids and lost children. And he used to go all over the world to do this, and he wasn't the only French. I don't know the rankings, French church-based person, right? There was multiple church-based people who were doing this thing, and it wasn't just church-based people, but it was called radiesthesia rather than dowsing, right? So they kind of took it away from the whole like parlor trick and started to really prove that you could track people based on, you just needed a hair. So, you know, if you've ever watched any kind of cult TV show where they do scrying, which is, you know, you have a map and then you use a pendulum and you like get a bit of hair, a locket of hair, and then all of a sudden they can find him, right? So this isn't like folklore, this is true. And so he wrote multiple books on it, and like had I'm pretty sure it was like 80 odd % track record for like finding mineral like gold. You want gold? Here's gold. And a lot of those oil fields that made like the oil barons, that's how they found the oil. So you have a unique fingerprint, you have a unique ear print, which is why it's really obvious when they've got like, you know, Joe Biden version 12 because the ears are wrong. I mean, sometimes it's a person in a mask, sometimes it's a robot, sometimes it's a real person, right? But your ear print, and there's cases. I'm pretty sure it was in the UK. There was a burglar back in the day who they convicted him on his ear print. So your ear print's unique, but actually so is your energetic blueprint. Every single energetic blueprint is unique. And the concept of infinity is very difficult for us to comprehend. But so the thing that always kind of blows my mind is when they say things like every single snowflake is different. Like snowflakes are teeny, teeny, tiny, and every single one is different. So of course, humans, we're all different, right? So your energetic if your fingerprints are different, your energy is going to be different. Just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it's not true. And kind of just quickly circling back to alters, like sometimes there's like hundreds of different alternate personalities. And when you first think, well, how do they do that with one mind? This is where the concepts such as above, so below, as within, so without kind of really comes into play. Like we are micro universes. And if there's an infinite number of planets and energy available, and our mind is the same, of course you can have then infinite creative capacity. Like it's just try not to freak you out too much. Okay, so if they really want to track you, they don't need an ID card, they just need your blood. And so I mean, how many people have donated to blood banks? How long have they been taking blood, like little pinpricks from kids? We're checking vitamin K. Right, less than 1% of babies who are born with vitamin K deficiencies, and even the scientific community are like, why are we like injecting all these kids? You just need to tell the mums to like up their vitamin K, and it's fine. And no, vitamin K1 is not what you need to increase because your body then has to turn it into vitamin K2, and you like, so just eat meat, right? And your body doesn't have to do any kind of converting, it just fucking deals with it. So the book I went and grabbed is like called Psychic Detectives, right? So this is like talking about actual real cases where psychics have used photos. So photos hold our energetic resonance. And even if you get a newspaper cutting, that was another thing that Mama used to use to track people. So you can use hair, you can use blood, you can use something imprinted with there. So maybe if you've got a kid, you've got like their blanket. So there are like a plethora of documented cases, actual like murder cases from recent history, not even like back in the 50s. And all of this was kind of hushed up. And you only really kind of find out about it if you are kind of on the fringe of society, right? But actually, there was a lot of real hard, and I say hard science, that was happening in Europe back in the 50s. And there was an Italian book that I found, and you can use you may or may not know this, but you can upload, if you get a PDF of a book or a PDF of anything, it doesn't have to just be a book. So any kind of PDF that's in a different language, if you open it in Word, you can then translate it and then resave it as a PDF. I mean, the translations are often a little bit weird, but what I found in that book was loads of different scientific experiments that they'd been doing, loads of different methods that they were using. They even invented this thing called, it was like a box thing that was invented in the UK, and you used to twiddle it and then you would like heal, right? And this is proven in a court of law because somebody bought it. So it comes back to like kind of disinformation, misinformation agents. So somebody bought it because they needed to take it off the market. So somebody bought it and then they tried to get a refund saying, oh, it didn't work, it was shit. And they were telling everybody else it was shit. And so the owner took them to court. And so it was proven in court that it did work, right? So she wasn't allowed her refund, she wasn't allowed her money, and she had to shut her trap because she was about to get done for defamation. You'd think it was doing it for defamation of character. So that was proven in a court of law, these boxes, and then they all kind of like disappeared, right? Because we all got TV. We all got TV and nobody's really paying attention to anything. But so in this Italian book that I converted into English, it was talking about blood specifically. And if you have somebody's blood, you can tell how well or unwell they are. Like it alters, right? So this is how it then links into quantum entanglement, right? So quantum entanglement in a nutshell, right, is that so say like you have one cell, one atom, which is over here, and they have another atom which is over here, and this gap between can be like teeny tiny, or it can be like 3 galaxies away, right? They are energetically linked, and the distance is irrelevant. But because they're entangled, when one's doing something, the other one is always doing something. They may not be doing the exact same thing, but say, for example, if atom A is jumping up and down, and every time atom A is jumping up and down, atom B is going side to side. I can't do both at the same time. This one's doing this one, this one's doing this, right? And then all of a sudden, you put some light on atom A, and it starts going side to side, and then atom B goes up and down because these two are entangled to do opposites, and they're only entangled to do 2 things, right? We're keeping it super basic. So every time you look at atom A, if it's going up and down, you instantly know atom B is going side to side because you know that relationship. And if you see atom B is going up and down, you instantly know atom A is going side to side, right? And it happens instantly, right? There is no delay, which is why Einstein didn't like the whole idea, because it was faster than light. And any kind of like normal physicists are like, well, it's faster than light, and we say nothing happens faster than light. But if you want to kind of look into quorum sensing, by I think it's Bonnie Basler, who's if you kind of take into the concept of quorum sensing, where you get a set number of bacteria in a body and then all of a sudden it becomes an issue, right? But so when you have a set number of your atoms doing something, something happens. So in your body, it's instant, right? So we have, our bodies are phenomenal. So your blood, whether it's in your body or not in your body, it is entangled. So this is what they discovered. This is what they discovered in the 50s. That if you had, if you had a patient and you had their blood, you don't need that patient to keep coming back and having tests. You can just use specific dowsing methods, so radiesthesia methods, to find out how well or unwell, to see whether a treatment's working. But also, you can test the blood to see whether a treatment's even going to work in the first place, right? Because the frequency changes. So a healthy frequency, and if you ever use an fMRI machine, and so we have to remember what was going on in about the 50s and 60s is the medical community was at the time rejecting the idea of EEG machines, rejecting the idea of like kind of electrical heart monitors. So there's no way they were going to accept the concept of the fact that your blood is quantum entangled. And if you want to know whether, say, for example, like I used to have hay fever, I don't anymore, because I went 80% carnivore. So there's no inflammation. So histamine's not being triggered relentlessly. So in order to know which of the hay fever tablets, because there's loratadine, sertraline hydrochloride, fexofenadine hydrochloride, so which of those three was going to be beneficial is you could have the teeny tiny little vial of blood and you can put a tablet on top, and then you can kind of use a pendulum and it will swing one way. It goes clockwise to say, that's good, and anti-clockwise to say that's not so great, right? So you have to be really careful, because if you are emotionally attached to the outcome of whatever you're testing, you will influence it, right? So doing it for yourself is not always as scientifically reliable, or doing it for somebody you love or hate may not always be scientifically reliable, but doing, so this was a proven and used method, where we're just taking, you go to the doctor, you take a vial, test what's going to be beneficial, and then every week you could just retest the blood and see whether somebody is improving. And obviously what they didn't like is lots of people improving. So back to the point of ID cards is, do they need you to have an ID card where you are like biometrically, your face is checked, your things are checked for tracking? No. If they really want to track you, like, they already have like a database of everybody's energetic blueprint. And if you're of interest, they were tracking you before you were even born, right? If you happen to be one of the identified important bloodlines. I mean, the Illuminati, outside of Illuminati, right? So whose blood are they interested in? Well, they're interested in like Cherokee blood, because they've got like lots of psychic. B, you got B blood. Also like lots of psychic stuff's attached to that bloodline. So because technology where it is now, and integrated technology, remember that's still relatively recent. So they will be using the things that they know. But the ID cards is the only reason they are bringing ID cards in is so that we can be alienated from society, and we can be locked out of society, and we can be controlled. Right? It's not about the illegals. The illegals are the way that they are going to bring the ID cards in, right? So we have to remember Tony Blair tried obviously he wasn't even PM then when Maddie went missing, but he happened to rock up. Well, if kids had ID cards and were being tracked, had chips in them, then Maddie wouldn't have got lost. I mean, imagine if we'd have caught the Podestas back then, right? So the ID cards are not for the illegals. They're not for the kids that go missing. They're for people like you and I who say no. But at the moment we're using cash, right? So remember they tried to get rid of cash and everybody started using cash. So they're like, oh shit, we can't get rid of that because people are using it. But yeah, so they don't need it. It's actual, like the tracking technology is irrelevant if you are somebody they're interested in the tracking your blueprint. And if you're somebody who's in a country where they have been taking teeny tiny bits of your blood and they have your blood in a blood bank, they definitely don't need you to have your mobile phone on. You could be in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, and they still know exactly where you are. So I hope that filled you with lots of I mean, this is why I just don't care, right? Because I know these things, and I think there's no point in hiding at all. But this book's quite interesting, by the way. But I watched the TV series, which is why I bought the book. But yeah, psychic detectives, like legit cases that have been cured. But obviously it's disinformation, misinformation, it's not true, it's all bullshit. Anyway, we at some point, we will be having that giant "I told you so" party. Not anytime soon. I wouldn't have thought, sadly. Okay, so we're going to finish up with, as we always do, with something to help after we've done all the darkness, and we've kind of been chatting about all the madness that's going on in the world. We need to kind of like have a little pick me up, something that we can do to just find a little bit of peace in our minds. So I'm going to talk about hope versus faith this week. And my quote today was about what was it yesterday? Yesterday quote was about hope. And it kind of got me thinking, like, I very rarely use the words hope, right? Because hope always implies wishing and wanting. Like, if you hope something happens, you don't think it's going to, right? There's that doubt. You don't believe it's going to happen. And when it comes to co-creating reality, which is what we all do, right? Because we are all little divine sparks. We're energy. We are the same, right? It's like the world creates, we create, like mums create, sperms and eggs together create, like, so it's like, no, it's not like there's a sperm and an egg get together and then it goes, right, that's it, no more creation. It's in the DNA, right? It's the DNA, it's the energy, it's the blueprint. Energy doesn't disappear, it changes, right? So it transforms, or it's another T. Transmutes. It either changes from one energy to another type of energy. Ugh, my brain stopped. 2 T's. Anyway, it doesn't disappear, right? It's not created, it doesn't disappear. It just it changes, or why? It'll come eventually. Okay, so it's just energy. It's not woo-woo. It's like biology, science. I love science, just not the fake science, the real science. Let's like up the real science, right? So hope is not about knowing, right? And that's not good for actually manifesting the things you want. So this is not, again, like just chill, Christians, because Psalm 23 is all about manifestation, and so is the Lord's Prayer. Right? If you want to go there, that's so when I'm talking about manifesting, about actually creating the life that you want, right? Which is all based on your emotions, right? So your brain is just a receiver. Your thoughts follow the train of your energy, which is your emotions. Energy, emotion, your emotions. If you feel good, you have good thoughts, you take good actions. If you feel shitty, you have shitty thoughts, you take shitty actions. So this is why you always want to feel good. Like, feel good before making any decisions. Deal with your shit by letting it go, releasing it, whatever you need to do. But if you have hope about something, because you don't believe it's going to happen, and because you have that one niggling bit of doubt, it won't happen. A teeny tiny little niggling bit of doubt will just completely royally fuck the chances of you actually seeing the things that you want to see come about, right? And so they can be like really small. It could be like teeny tiny, like you might want to wake up tomorrow 1% feeling better than you did today, right? Or you might want the goodies to win. So it doesn't matter whether it's big or small, because energy doesn't give a shit about big or small. There's no big or small in quantum physics, despite the fake theory saying that, because they've never been able to define what the big or small is. And their theory is that it's only entangled It only happens with small things. It doesn't happen with big things, which is why it doesn't happen with humans. But I would argue that humans are all like, we could be like, you think of us like split personalities, right? We're all the same, but we're all like individual. So there's the same can happen inside your mind. And I would not want 8.5 billion inside. Like just one in my head is enough, right? Just me in my head rather than me and one, right? Me and one other would just be like way too much. I just need to move in because I need to put my feet up because my back's seizing. So me and somebody else in my head, I mean, I couldn't cope. You guys definitely couldn't cope. But as soon as you have a bit of doubt, right, it blocks the process. If you don't think the goodies can win, then you will be unintentionally sabotaging all the things that you could do that could lead to the positive outcome. And if you have hope that they win, it means that you don't think they will. You don't believe they will, right? So you have to have rock solid faith. And this is not like religious faith. This is faith in humanity, right? Faith that humans at their core are good people, that we can make good decisions, that we do deserve to be in charge of this planet, right? There's a case to be made. The dolphins will probably do a better job, but they can't walk on the land, right? So, I mean, they might be very intelligent, but they can't walk on the land. So there's you got to start having faith, right? And faith is really difficult because what comes with faith and achieving the things that you want is non-resistance. And non-resistance is really hard. So what do we mean by non-resistance? Because all the bloody woo-woo people were like, oh, you just need to be like non-resistant. And they're like, okay, what the fuck does that mean? It just means not emotionally attached to the outcome, right? I have faith in humanity. I mean, sometimes I'm looking at humans and thinking, that's an interesting decision. But overall, I have faith in humanity, right? I have faith in the majority. And I know that the goodies will win because I know there are enough good people. And I know there are enough people who feel good. Like, that's it. If there are enough people feeling good, they will be taking the actions that bring about more good. And it might be just more good in their own little circle. They might be completely oblivious to the con that's going on. Again, that's irrelevant because energy is just energy, right? So it goes back to the thing that I go on and on and on and about. Your only job, right, to help bring about the goodies winning is to feel good. That's it. And I don't mean like inverted feel good because you've been abused and pleasure pain and you're doing like the stuff that we mentioned at the beginning that I'm not going to name again because I don't think YouTube will cope a second naming. I mean it's energy. So, but I would say the victims. So it's probably balanced, right? It's null and void, right? It's energy is energy, right? This is where we need to start having these actual conversations because at some point we're going to have to be slammed with the reality of life, and I think it's going to. If you've at least pondered these things, it's not going to be something that shatters you. Like, could probably very legitimately actually cause people to go through the entire disassociation process. So you have to find something to have faith in. And if you can't have faith in humanity, have faith in yourself, right? And this doesn't mean that you will always make the right decision because you're human, you're not a robot, right? If you are trying your best to feel good, right? And if that means you are going to spend a day like watching shit on telly, although like I mean, telly used to be pretty crap, but nowadays, like, like, it's not even worth your time show on telly, but, you do you. If that means spending a day eating ice cream in your pajamas, just shut off from the world so that you can function and not feel like everything's overwhelming. In energetic terms, that's the best thing you can do. And so you've mentioned before, like, it's called, like, the Maharishi effect, so the monk effect is it's commonly known as the monk effect. So this is the peace project from the 1970s, and it kinda goes that ties into transcendental meditation, and it all goes a bit like, but be careful because that's like Illuminati territory there. But what they proved, right, is so there was just people doing transcendental meditation, like beaming love out in whichever city they were in. So they did it in the UK, they did it up in Merseyside, so that's across like Liverpool and the Wirral. They did it in New York, they did it in 20 different cities around the world. Nothing else happened other than 1% of the square root of the population of that place, right? The square root of 1%. So it wasn't even 1%. They got the square root of 1% and it was enough. Who just kind of like met, and then they did some meditation and they just pushed out love energy. That's it. They just pushed love out. And crime went down. People's general feelings of happiness went up. So in Merseyside specifically, their crime went down by about, I think crime went down by 20%. Crime in the rest of the UK went up by 16%. So there's a 36% difference. And for anybody who's not from the UK, like there's lots of jokes about Scousers, right? So if you've got a car with like, stick-on hubcaps, you got to make sure that there's it tied on because you'll have no hubcaps. Like I was at uni in Scousland. So it's a running joke. But they're all thieves, right? And if you ever played that Legend of Zelda game, what was it on the oh, don't know which on the Cube. Was it on the Cube? That purple cube thing? Or was it the one afterwards? Maybe it was on the one afterwards. I don't know, but basically the bandits and the thieves all had Scouse accents. Like I thought it was that was the most hilarious thing that they ever did, and obviously everybody got really offended. But it's like it's a running joke. Go with it. So okay, so to put it into context, quite a lot of crime in Merseyside, and there was quite a lot of crime. It's a very socioeconomically disadvantaged area, right? So if you have low socioeconomic, if you've got lots of disadvantage, so you've got like poverty, low education levels because you've got like shitty access to education, you've got high levels of unemployment, you're going to have an increased risk of crime. It doesn't mean that people are evil, it just means that the legitimate ways to survive are constricted. So you're going to find non-socially acceptable ways to eat, right? To eat, to pay your bills. Which is like so. This is why they have benefits, but then you get people who get stuck on benefits. So so it happened in every place that they did it. They just beamed out love. And if you want to kind of look into psi stuff, so paranormal psychology, there's a book called Real Magic by Dean Radin, which is quite good at compiling a lot of the research. You can see a lot of the research. But research has been going on for like over a century. Like early 1800s, they were really starting to look into all of this stuff. But so when you have faith, right? So you have faith is your rock solid belief. When you have non-resistance, you're not emotionally attached to the outcome. So in order for you to bring about a good, happy, healthy life for you, which is what all you need to focus on is you, right? Because it's energy, it ripples outwards. If you focus on doing things that make you feel good, you will then naturally start taking actions that enables you to help other people feel good too. Right. So I don't mean everybody has to like retrain to become a psychologist or like don't recommend it at all. Following my path is not recommended. You don't, that's not what I mean. But like it just little things, right? So if you see the little old lady trying to cross the zebra crossing with the shopping, if you are having a really shitty time, then you are going to be so caught up in all the stuff that you do, you're probably just going to march past the old lady and not even notice that she's struggling. If you're feeling good, you're going to be more aware of the surroundings, and then you may offer to carry the shopping home. You may see a social media post where somebody's struggling and you just say something really nice on the social media post, right? And so then you feel good, they feel good. So, and I'm not talking about like doing like random acts of kindness for clicks and likes. Like that's like random acts of kindness and it's not about increasing your fame. That's and just do it for the sake of doing it, right? But when you feel good, you will do things that make others feel good, and then they will do things that make them feel good, that make others feel good, right? So this is just, it's like the ripple effect. So you start with you. So have faith in your abilities to feel good. Don't have hope that you might feel good tomorrow. Just decide you're going to. And then if you don't, like, well, no biggie. There's a day after. Just do one thing. Like do one thing to make yourself 1% better, and that will like accumulate, right? If you did 1% better every day, that's like in 100 days, then you're 100% better than where you were. I mean, you may not be like where you want to be, but that's like 1%. I mean, I know I'm not good at math, but 1% better every day for 100 days is definitely 100% better, right? You'll be surprised at how quickly your life changes when you just focus on checking in with how you feel emotionally and then resetting yourself so that you feel good before you take any actions. You won't have your actions biting you in the ass. So what can you do to make yourself feel good? Well, I don't know, because I'm not you. So write a list of things. And we kind of spoke about this the other day. Like, think about the things that you used to do, right? And I know for you, for those of you who've been here like every 21 episodes, and maybe were with me like back before we were like the internet, we were imploded off the internet. It is the same stuff because it's what works, right? And bearing in mind the people I work with are like multiple failed suicide attempts, dissociative identity disorder due to like horrific trauma, like the people the NHS have decided who don't they're treatment resistant, right? That's how the NHS like labels you. If counseling didn't work, CBT didn't work, and the medication doesn't work, then you're treatment resistant. It's got nothing to do with the fact that your treatments are shit, but you're treatment resistant, right? And these are the things that I get them to do. Like, this is like they have to do the things to make them feel good, right? You have to change your energy because your brain just follows suit. That's it. It also enables you to kind of look at the shit that's going on and be like, no, I'm not going to play today. I'm not even going to bother, right? If your energy is not good, then don't get involved, right? Make that decision, like protect you. Because the worst thing to do is to then kind of like get involved and pile on and put out loads of negative energy, because then that will filter outwards. And then you'll make yourself 1% worse every day. actually, you spiral faster, like, that you would go downhill far quicker than 100 days. Like, once you get locked into fear, because it's actually a survival mechanism, right? So your body thinks that your mind thinks that you're about to get, like, assassinated, eaten by the lion, whatever you want to kind of, frame it as. You're locked into that, and you will then make lots of bad decisions. It's very easy to get caught in that bad loop. We have to keep reminding ourselves to do the good things, and that's because, dopamine's only kind of knocking around between 1.5 minutes to 5 minutes, and then it's like gone. So if you want to feel good like nonstop, you're gonna have to like do lots of stuff, right? The mistake people make, and maybe you've kind of like been here and you've tried a few things I've said, and you're like, well, I felt good for like 2 minutes and then I went away. Like, that's chemistry, love. That's not because it wasn't working, that's because it was working, but it's because it's natural dopamine boost is between 1 and 5 minutes, and I would say it's probably only 5 minutes for the people who have who are doing it frequently, and they've built up their capacity to, secrete dopamine and not necessarily secrete dopamine, but not, like, gobble it up, right? So this is what you talk about, like, reuptake, right? So slow down the reuptake of the serotonin and dopamine. So make sure you're eating frequently. Why would you want to eat frequently? Well, because 90% serotonin is created in the gut, and that's secreted when you eat, right? And that lasts in your system for about an hour and a half. So little and often, you're going to be like continually pumping. Obviously, you need to eat the serotonin based foods. So anything with tryptophan in it, because that's what your body needs to turn into tryptamine, which is the base of 5-hydroxytryptamine, which is serotonin. So you need tryptophan. So chicken, eggs, cheese, meat. So you get all your essential amino acids and fake meat. And good news for everybody who's been avoiding the fake meat, that it's like it's going bankrupt, isn't it? Those big fake meat companies are all going bankrupt because nobody wants to eat your shit meat. And thankfully, even the vegans who aren't my friend are looking at the fake meat going, no. And yeah, like there's what is it called? Like, it's a beetroot bean burger, which is actually quite nice. I just eat food, to be fair. But no, I don't eat fake food. I don't mind the idea of a beetroot bean burger, because like that's real food. That's food. But the idea of like pretend flavored chicken, like, no. And all the fake synthetic meat is created using blood, right? So it's an animal was harmed to create the fake meat, even though it's now been synthesized and, 3D printed. It was initially like the extracted blood, right? So you need to eat the food, right? Eat the food. Eat the good food. Eat the real food. Brazil nuts are good because they got loads of selenium in. Just be careful, because you can get like selenium toxicity from them, and selenium's are useful. But you need vitamins, you need B vitamins, and B12 is naturally occurring in meat. It's not naturally occurring in any kind of non-meat. Right? You have to have it. You have to have fake B12, and your body, it doesn't really know what it's doing with it. You have to have like lots more. So eat. My recipe for happiness, right? Eat every 90 minutes, but not like loads, because then you'll put on weight and then you'll make yourself sad, right? So eat like a variety, but predominantly protein, because that's what your body needs to function. It needs bits of fat. If you're not a marathon runner, or an extreme sport person, then you don't need shitloads of carbs. Most of us don't need very many carbs at all whatsoever. You need a few, because they, release leptin. So you do need some. And there's nothing wrong with mama on toast every so often, which has got yeast in, which is good. I don't know why. It's good, right? I can't remember why yeast is good. Yeast is good gut bacteria. There we go. So carbs aren't like horrific, just don't have 90% carbs. You want like minimal carbohydrates because you don't need them and you'll just turn them into fat and then you'll get fat and you'll get sad, right? And the idea of eating more carbs and then exercising like lots to burn the carbs is just counterintuitive. Like, how much time do you have, right? Let's be like time productive with our happiness, right? Eat less carbs, more protein, and a little bit of fat. And you need the fat because most of the vitamins and minerals that we need are fat soluble. There's some that are water soluble, but that's fine because if you're drinking water, you're fine, and you get water in most food anyway. But you need the fat because a lot of the stuff we need is this is why people who take like supplements and they're vitamin deficient is because they're not having fat on anything. And I was like, well, that's because you might be like, you're just pissing and shitting all those vitamin supplements out. Like, what a waste of money that is. So just eat the meat, right? And eat whatever meat you want. Just make sure you cook it properly. And no, I don't care that potentially pork is part human, because if it was done, it was done 3,500 years ago, and I've been injected with vaccines that turned me into a chicken and a fucking pig and a cow. So whatever meat I'm eating, I'm cannibalizing myself. There we go. And if you didn't know that, that's what happens when they injected you with vaccines as a kid. And that's why they inject you with vaccines as a kid, because then your DNA accepts foreign DNA and synthesizes it and joins it to your DNA. So I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be talking about good stuff, right? So faith, right? Faith. We're doing faith in yourself, faith in that you can do the things that make you feel good. The recipe for happiness: eat good food every 90 minutes, so that you're constantly pumping out serotonin, right? Only 10% serotonin is created in your mind, right? If you don't have loads of serotonin in your body, you won't be able to convert it into melatonin. Melatonin's not, the misconception is that it's its own unique hormone. It isn't. It is serotonin when the sun goes down, when the blue light stops. Whatever serotonin you've got in your system is converted into melatonin, so then you can sleep. So then you can like have your REM sleep, and you can have your light sleep, and you can consolidating all your brain stuff and your brain healing, and then you have your deep sleep when your body's healing, right? So you need all of those things to happen. So you want to eat, sleep, and you do need to do some exercise, right? So I'm not saying we need to kind of go and do like insane levels of exercise, but you need to do a bit. You need to do a bit because your muscles don't release the tryptophan unless you're using them, right? So so you might be eating it, and you might be going, we need to roll this serotonin out, and that your body's like, you haven't moved, so the muscles haven't released it. So we can't. Right, because you do need to move some. Even if you're sat on your ass and you're just like wiggling your arms repeatedly, like I don't care what you do, just do something. So diet, sleep, and exercise, they are like your 3 fundamentals for happiness. Like you do them first, and then you go, what do I like doing? And I'm going to do that a lot. And I'm going to reward myself for doing those things so I can keep pumping the dopamine. If you've got an animal that you like and that likes you, so we're not an animal that you like and likes you. And if you've got a dog or a cat, hugging the dog or a cat helps release oxytocin. If you've got a partner who doesn't mind like hugging you every so often, I'm allowed a couple of hugs a day. But this is why we've got 3 dogs, right? So I can exhaust. Because I can get like my hug capacity, but I don't like hugging people, right? Matt's different, but I don't. Random people hugging me, just get out of my space. I don't fucking do the weird kiss thing. No. It's probably how my dogs feel, but it's just tough, right? I feed them and walk them. They will have my hugs. So that will trigger oxytocin, right? So I'm thinking good hormones. So dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. Keep flooding your system. Then you will feel good. Then you will take actions that make you feel good, that make your life better, make everybody's life better. You will influence society in a really positive way. And when everybody's doing good things, the energy ripples out, and the rest of the people that you're not even speaking to or meeting will feel good, right? This goes back to the monk effect, the Maharishi effect, right? You can make your really angry, moody neighbor happy and healthy by you being good. Like, mind blown. And then all of the dodgy cabal people who are like testing your blood will be like, I wonder what they're doing, because now they're getting healthier and healthier and healthier and healthier. So in that Italian book, there was and I think I've spoken about this before. Can't remember the name of the guy. But it's basically like a 360 protractor. So it goes from 0, and you don't want to be like 0 because you're dead, up to 360. And you can put the blood in the middle, and then you just hold the pendulum over it, and it will pick a place, and it will just move to it, right? And so that's how you can tell whether somebody's getting better, because they'll go from, you know, maybe like down here on the, like, I mean, you really don't want to be like near the 0. And that's just so you know, that's how Mehmet would know people were dead or not, because there would be like 0 energetic resonance. I mean, he used a slightly different numerical scale. He would count the rotations, but you have to be pretty skilled. So this is why this other guy kind of came up with this protractor, which works as well. You can have like a body. Oh, I don't have my body. It's not a, you know, it's not a body. Those little what are they called, mannequins? Little artist mannequins. Or you can use like one of those like white line drawings, right? And you can hold it over, and you can. So Mehmet, he had it down to an actual rotational skill, right? So wouldn't need the person in front of him. Just need a something from the person and a symbolistic outline of a human, and he could run his pendulum over that person's body in strategic points, i.e. what he was looking for, count the number of oscillations and rotations, because there's a whole intricate pattern, and he could diagnose you with whatever was wrong with you. But he would, like, it was again 80% accurate, and so there was 20% of fluctuation because we have like geomagnetic energy that gets in the way, solar flares that gets in the way. Sometimes if you don't believe it's possible, it will interrupt it, because you will block the capacity for the communication to happen. It's fine. Those are the things you can do. So when I first started testing my energy 2 years ago, I was around 172. No, 1,700, because it's in that. What? Yeah, it's 3,600. That's why. I don't know why it's not 100, but it is on the Italian job, on the Italian thingy. It was like 1,700 something. So it was this side of the it was this side of the arc. Then I love experimenting on myself. And so I would roll essential oil. So I'd go like, how good's this one for me, right? And then I tested coffee, and coffee went down like a lot. Like coffee, just so you know, if you have a drink of coffee, it actually lowers your entire energetic frequency into like the range of 52 hertz, and at 50 hertz you start to get inflammation, and your immune system's turned off. So it literally drops you into your developing illness. So all the people who are consistently drinking coffee, you literally turning off your immune system. Anyway, so I started to test, and I was like, oh, how good's their eggs? How, you know, can I eat pasta? Because I love pasta. Can I eat the carbs? And you can figure out what portion's good for you, what portion's then going to like tip you over the edge. If you want to know what colors are good for you, because colors are frequency, it's energy. Like obviously it's light frequency, like as it's the color you see is not the light that's absorbed, right? So what light are you not letting into your system? So like it just the actual research that they were doing is insane, and it's so insane it's now being done now as breaking research. Anyway, So do the things that make you feel good. If you don't know what makes you feel good, think about the things that you're doing in your past. Make sure you're eating, sleeping, and doing some kind of exercise. You have to. There's no such thing as a serotonin deficiency, like as a genetic disorder, right? This is a myth. The only reason you don't feel good is because you're not pumping serotonin. The reason you're not pumping serotonin is you're not eating the serotonin-based foods, and you're not exercising, so your muscles aren't releasing it. Right? This is why happy people tend to be people who are eating healthily and doing exercise. Like, you have to do that first. Then once you're happy, you just kind of get on the roll. Well, you lose the roll, so you get on the roll of doing the stuff. Okay, so faith. Have faith in you and your capacity to feel good, because you can, because you're human. And even if you're a robot, I'm sure you can just plug yourself in and upgrade yourself. You just feel good, right? That's it. So it doesn't matter if you don't have faith in humanity. Have faith in you. And even if you made loads of mistakes, that's okay, because you're human. While you're still going, like, there's still time, right? And with regards to the whole percentage of you good versus doing stuff, right, you only need to be like 51% good, right? So you're allowed to be 49% of a fuck up. Like, that's in the grand scheme of things. We don't have to be 100% good. You're allowed to have that day where you want to just step away from the world. You're allowed to have that day where you get caught up and you get angry. It's not going to derail you. You just decide to do better the next day. That's it. Like, just love you. And when you love you, you start doing things that will make you love you more. And the more you love me, the more other people can love you. And the more other people love you, the more other people love them. And we just have like this entire, world peace, like what they want, like all the, who are they? Miss World, right? And I mean the actual women worlds, not the fake women, the real women worlds. Which I know it's all a psyop, and I know it's all like human trafficking, but let's just pretend for a minute. We go with the good side of things. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me. Have yourselves an amazing week. I shall see you next week. Hopefully we've got peace. Hopefully it's done by next week. The people need to stop dying, because that is not doing the world's energy any good. Like, the fear, just don't get caught up in the fear. Don't have faith, don't have hope, have faith, right? And if you ever catch yourself saying I hope, you need to find out what your disbelief is, and you need to kind of neutralize that thing and find something just to the right of it or just to the left. This is not about politics. This is just slightly different point of view that you can have faith in. And then eventually you'll get faith in the thing you had hope in. So, like, faith through the back door. Let's make it easy for ourselves. Have an amazing day. I shall